Welcome to Adult Education and Family Literacy Week and the Command Center, hosted by the Coalition on Adult Basic Education. Next guest is going to be the Literacy Center of Western Michigan, and we're going to bring Carrie on screen. Carrie, how are you?
I'm great, Jeff. How are you?
I am doing well, and you know what? Like Abramowitz, I'm really super sympathetic to the way you pronounce someone's last name. So why don't you tell us, how do you say your last name? I want to make sure I get it right.
Yeah, it's Machkouri.
There you go. I love it. So almost as hard as Abramowitz.
It's very new to me as well. It's my husband's last name. We just got married in May. So
yay! Congratulations.
Tell my coworkers how to pronounce my new name.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know I mentioned that you are with the Literacy Center of Western Michigan, and want to tell us a little about you and how to get into education.
Yeah, actually, so I have a background in social work. I went to Grand Valley State University in West Michigan for social work. And after I finished my degree, I was looking for what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with, refugees and immigrants. And I found an AmeriCorps position with the Literacy Center as an ESL instructor that did not require a background in education. So right from the get-go, working with that population of adult learners, immigrants and refugees really just kick-started my career in adult ed. I went back to get a master's degree. I believe strongly in lifelong learning, so I've been on that journey myself alongside of my learners, practicing being an instructor and now as a full-time coordinator with the Literacy Center for our integrated education and training programs.
So yeah, we're going to talk IET in a minute because I know it's a hot topic around the country, and I do a lot of work in that area. So we'll get there. Tell me about the Literacy Center of Western Michigan. How long has it been around, and how many students do they serve?
Yeah, so the Literacy Center has been around and originally started in Kent County as the Kent County Literacy Council back in the 1980s, but then changed its name to the Literacy Center of West Michigan to reflect its expanding to serve upwards of 5 or 6 counties in West Michigan.
Wow.
So our reach is pretty broad. It started as a tutoring program working with mostly adult basic education learners, but we've really expanded to like the Hispanic population that's here in Western Michigan, as well as the influx of refugees and immigrants coming in from all across the world to our area. We do a family literacy program where we teach parents in their children's schools English. The tutoring program is still going strong, as well as our customized workplace English program that I work with under the IET umbrella, but as well as customized English within the workplace. So we do quite a bit. We serve, I think this year we served around 800 learners.
Wow, that's terrific. So one of the themes that's been running throughout this week is the reality that education, adult education in particular, is not just about an individual learning. It's actually a family project. It's something that a student often has to juggle a lot of different balls at one time. Sometimes it's children, sometimes it's other barriers that they might have, but it becomes a family project. And integrating the family into that learning process brings a family closer together. It's one of those intangibles that you wish there was like a KPI or outcome for. Like, how much closer is your family today than it was, before you started being a student? And I would bet my house on the reality that 9 times out of 10 those families get closer because of the educational component and bringing people together. Remarkable work. You mentioned integrated education training, and I was wondering, we've talked a lot about it. I've given definition a bunch of times, but I love to hear how other people explain it. So tell our audience, what's a integrated education training?
Yeah, so those are trainings that are concurrent English language support alongside workforce training and workforce preparation. So that looks like, for example, for our certified nurse assistant training program, we have an ESL instructor that supports the vocabulary and the concepts that the learners are practicing in their training program, as well as support with resume, cover letter, interview, connecting with employers on site in the classroom. It's really a full spectrum approach to preparing someone for a specific workplace.
It is. So what's nice about it is it makes so much sense. And I always use this analogy because it's so, I think it just clicks. If you can imagine a math teacher teaching fractions in or near a carpentry instructor teaching carpentry, and then throw in some career preparedness stuff with that. And you just got the whole puzzle right there. It's like put all the pieces together in one room and make it happen. So I love it. IET across the country is really taking hold. And one of the things I do want to mention is that there's a great toolkit that's out now. In the U.S. Department of Education has a toolkit that was published for IETs, and if you've not checked it out, go on to the links platform. It's lincs.ed.gov, and you'll be able to actually access all the resources there. But it's a wonderful, wonderful toolkit and gives you everything you want to know about starting and getting an IET off the ground. So, and there's also a second, kind of an addition to that will be for IET and corrections and the correction and justice setting. So keep an eye out for that. That's on its way. Yeah, some great work that's being done. I have a few questions regarding this week in particular. So this is a week of messaging. We've been up in Capitol Hill. We've been locally. We've been seeing mayors and governors and state legislators. What's the message from Michigan that you'd like to share with your legislative staff, your legislators, as well as legislative staff that are looking or considering the importance of adult education?
Yeah, and I think especially right now when we're seeing the numbers with unemployment on the rise in Michigan, I think it's really important, really key for not only the employment pipeline, but also for, child literacy, poverty issues in our state. Education in general is going to have a ripple effect on all members of the community. It's one of the best investments that you can make is in someone's education, and can cause huge impacts on every other person who connects with that person in the community.
Yeah, I think we get sometimes a little confused when we talk about adult education, and not we don't see the full picture. And the full picture really is what happens after they get their high school equivalency or they get that credential. Sometimes that gets them into a career pathway. What it leads to after that is oftentimes a job, which is a career which starts supporting their families and then gives them the ability to now jump even further up the line. That entry level position today just isn't enough for families and to feed families. That they need an opportunity to advance, and the only way you really can do that is if you have the skill sets to advance, and that's through education. And it is definitely about constantly learning and continuous learning across every sector, even for our instructors and for our administrators that work in the adult education world. It should be a field of constant. Every day I try to pick up at least one or two key things that I can continue to grow and get smarter about. So I appreciated that comment earlier. When you talk about your students and the work that you do, it's impossible to really place a dollar value on that, right? Because it's so hard. I mean, there's so many components of that. But I'm curious, are there any success stories that stick out in your mind that you like to share of people that you've worked with or your agencies work with? And it doesn't just have to be a student. It could be an instructor or someone that works with you, a colleague. So, yeah, you have any stories that kind of stick out in your mind?
Yeah, actually, our Michigan success story was submitted by myself from the Literacy Center about one of our immigrant learners who came from India. She's a young mother who came from India, and she had a background in veterinary. Um, career, and after she became a mother, she felt like she wasn't going to be able to do any work anymore. She felt like her education ended there. But when she came to the United States and she came to Michigan, she found out about English classes at one of our partner community organizations, Kent Intermediate School District. And that led her to find our certified nursing assistant classes at the Literacy Center. And she shared her story with me, and one of like the sticking points from her story is her talking about how when she puts on her scrubs in the morning to go to her new job, to her work, she sees that reflected in her children's eyes, and she sees how like proud they are of her, that now mom has reached this goal that she wanted, this education goal, and she hopes that, you know, that can lead her children to reaching their own educational goals, and that, you know, she feels like learning never stops for her. You know, she continues with her drop-in conversation class, and she takes part in other activities with us, even though she's a graduated learner.
That is just super unbelievably amazing. It's great. It's a great story. Yeah, we often don't wear the glasses of our students. But the one thing that we've talked about throughout the week is the fact that the change in adult education for a learner is generational, right? This is it goes all the way down to their children and then some, because the impact that it has. And yeah, I wish you could bottle that or just show that, like that, if they had a camera in their house that could show that to legislators, like what that feeling is like, or what their kids see out of that. We don't do enough of that storytelling, so I appreciate that, and keep sharing that story. Those are stories that are really impactful, and bringing that student in even to tell the story really helps the field, and it helps build the community and the country to recognize that it's an integral part of building a stronger nation. So thank you so much. I wish I wish during this week that it wouldn't be just one week. I wish that we had the ability to make this AEFL week every week. So for all year long, we'd be celebrating all these success stories. And I want to encourage our everyone out there that's listening, if you have a story to share, please feel free to get it to us. Just email it to COABE, send us a clip, send us what you have, and we'll be glad to get it on. We showed a video a little while ago from Eric Vincent Fumo, who was an ESL student and was a success story and turned his whole life around. Just amazing video, and we're going to be sharing those throughout the day and throughout the tomorrow as well, and they continue to share them throughout COABE and through some of our websites and podcasts and things that COABE does. So we are really excited about the work that's being done in Literacy Center of Western Michigan, and I'm just curious because I know that every state is a little bit different, and I'm wondering a little bit about if you could talk a little about the challenges of distance in Michigan. It's a big state. And I imagine transportation has to be an issue with students and learners. And I'm wondering if you might have some suggestions for people in our country that struggle with the issue of transportation.
Yeah, we see that as a big barrier in our programming as well. We do not get funding for transportation, just like we don't really get funding for childcare. It's one of those hot items that really determine access to a program. With COVID, though, we broadened our programming into the virtual world. We did not have virtual classes prior to COVID, and now we have maintained some of our virtual classes for our upper level learners, and that has really helped draw in learners from, you know, the outskirts of our region. So we predominantly serve Kent County, but some of the more rural counties that are a little bit farther away from us, we've been seeing learners quite far away that we usually wouldn't serve have access to our virtual classes, which has been a real gift from COVID.
Yeah, that for sure. And I think we have to be mindful that like transportation dollars are something that we should be thinking about. Like how do we give people bus tickets to get to school every day, and those things that they may not be able to afford. I also think that as educators, we need to ask those questions I'll give a quick story. Well, you got a second? I'll give you a quick story. So I was a director of workforce development for an adult literacy, a Title II agency in Philadelphia, and a teacher came to us and said, came to me and said, Mr. A, can you talk to John? He's been coming to class, but he doesn't really smell so well. And I was like, okay. And John came in and I sat him down. And I said, John, how you doing? And he said, I'm doing well, Mr. A. And he said, I got two parts of my test done for the high school equivalency, and I'm moving. I got the third one coming up this week. I'm ready. And I said, no, I know you're doing well. I've been following you and seeing how you're doing, talking to your teachers. Everything looks great. And I said to him, no, I'm really curious. Like, how are you doing? Like, just how are you doing? And he said, oh, it's crazy. We just had a new baby recently, and I'm working 3 jobs. So the overnight job I have in the meat packing plant, I get home and I barely get to class in time. So I'm usually coming right from work. Now, all of a sudden, all the light bulbs are going off in my head. This gentleman's working 3 jobs to keep his family together, and his meat packing plant job, which is the last job of the day, is the job that he's coming to the class after. And we were fortunate enough to get him set up with a local YMCA and get him a place to shower and have some breakfast in the morning before he comes to class, so that he didn't have to travel all the way home and get to class in time. But for us having that discussion, like, how long do you think John would be in that classroom? Probably not so long, right? Because those challenges are really hard. So when we talk about education and the work we do, I think the country needs to understand that it's not just about what happens in the classroom. It's really all about what happens outside of the classroom that help our students persist and stay with us for the journey. So it's a great story. I love to share it because I think it really hits on a lot of the things that you talk about, is really, looking from the student perspective of those challenges and barriers and trying to find wraparounds and working through them. And we appreciate the work that the Literacy Center of Western Michigan is doing in that respect. And let's keep doing it. So you got some voice now. I'm going to give you the microphone to share your thoughts on Adult Education and Family Literacy Week, and what is it you want your colleagues across the country to know?
I would say don't ever give up. As you were saying with our learners, we don't know unless we ask. If a learner is struggling with some aspect of programming, or, like your story, there's some sort of personal issue going on, don't stop being curious about your learners and your learners' needs. Make that extra effort to ask a simple question to find out how they're doing. I think is really key in making a successful program. Our programming in adult education, we really should be community hubs addressing multiple community needs. And I know that can be hard at sometimes, but like I said, don't give up. Keep on motivating your students, keep on empowering them, and keep on asking them how they are.
That is terrific advice and words to live by. Carrie, if we wanted to get more information about the unbelievably great work being done in Literacy Center of Western Michigan, how can we find out more about you guys?
Yeah, you can visit our website. It is literacycenterwm.org. We have a great section on our website that features a blog post about learners in all of our programming that is updated sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly, depending on the time of year. But you can learn about our stories and our programming on our website.
We love it. So, Carrie, I want you to promise me something. If you come across these success stories, or you get a student that's on the news or wins an award or anything like that, we just get them to COABE, or send them to me. I'll send you my email address and send them to us. So we love to get them out there, because I think those are the stories that are impactful in really changing adult literacy and the way we see our students, and we see the importance of this topic. So thank you for some amazing work being done in Western Michigan. We appreciate you, and thanks for celebrating Adult Education and Family Literacy Week with us.
Absolutely, Jeff, and thank you for having me.
All right, one last time. If we want to learn more about Literacy Center of Western Michigan, where do we get it?
literacycenterwm.org.
Love it. Thank you, Carrie. We'll see you soon, and thanks for joining us today.
Right. Thank you.